Hello. I have a problem, a psychological problem, where when I'm reading manga and I get close to the end, I face a great emotional resistance to actually reading the final chapters. And this is something that I've known about me for quite a while. There's a long trail of barely unfinished manga in my past. But I never really reflected much on it. I just kind of get to the point where it ends, and then I find myself not reading it, and then I find myself doing other things, and then I just find myself not thinking about it at all. But it is causing some great annoyance to my boyfriend, who is very patiently and occasionally impatiently waiting for me to finish reading Tokyo Ghoul so we can talk about what happens at the end. And as we discuss this, I realize, like, yeah, this is like an actual pretty persistent pattern for me. And it kind of bugs me because although I think I have my reasons for it, and if I really dig into it, I can kind of figure out maybe like psychologically why it bothers me to finish a series, why I avoid it, things like that. But really, deep down, I just want to see what happens, really. I want to finish it and move on and such and feel that I've completed it. But even knowing that and even wanting that, I have a hard time doing it. So this is the idea behind Finish Manga May, where hopefully I'm going to finish reading a few manga series that have succumbed to this pattern where I only have a couple chapters left, but those couple chapters have been sitting there for God knows how long. First up is Beastars, which I actually only started reading pretty recently. It finished publication, I think, maybe a couple years ago now. I had watched the first two seasons of the anime. I'm not sure if they're going to animate more, but I'd always been meaning to read it just because I've always really admired Paru Sensei's art and her just manga making technique in general. So as much as I enjoyed the anime, I knew I was going to like the manga even more. And I just devoured this like a wild carnivore, sinking its teeth into the meat of the black market. I read the entire series, minus, of course, the last couple of chapters, in the span of maybe 2 weeks. I was just addicted. I couldn't get enough. But then, inevitably, right at the end, I slammed on the brakes. Until now. I'm going to make videos of these last few chapters. I'm going to discuss what I thought about the series, kind of just like throughout the videos, I think. I don't think I'm going to take time separately to talk about the series as a whole, but just sort of as it's relevant. And yeah, I'm hoping by making kind of like a ritual out of this and a series out of this, I'll be able to get through a lot of manga that has been sitting there right at the finish line. So yeah, I'm just rereading the last couple of chapters before when I stopped. I'm at the part now where Melon, who we thought had given up the ghost and was dying on the back of I can't remember this guy's name. The Beastars back, the badass horse. In fact, springs to life and attacks him, bites into his neck. And this was the last thing I could remember, so I stopped here. So we'll finish this chapter and then read the next chapter. Chose this evil path myself, and it's got no room for pity. So I think Melon is like a pretty interesting villain, insofar as everyone else kind of has this like societal motivation and kind of like emerged as a villain, as an antagonist through some shortcoming of society, herbivore carnivore relations, whatever, representing some like societal urge or societal desire or whatever. Melon, of course, though, like, isn't really motivated by any of this. I chose this path of evil myself, and it's got no room for pity, resenting the fact that I can't think of his name, was pitying him. Her meat doesn't have much of a taste. Evil till the very end. So maybe took him out. Which I guess makes sense because we're kind of having a generational passing of the torch. That Gosha and Yasua, something like that, are at the end of their life, and Legoshi and Lewis are going to step up as the next generation of Beastars. Okay, so I think I remember the end of that chapter. Click through all their silly memes. 2 months later, the Black Alley Market is officially demolished. Very cute little shots of animals at work here. It feels like there's so much left untouched in the world building, and I could go on a long time about the world building in the series. It's so weird and so compelling and just so different than the world building I've seen in like any other series. But like right up until the end here, we're getting little glimpses of types of animals that we've never seen otherwise, like this tortoise here. There's some moles. I think we've seen some moles before, sitting on top of the front end scoop thing. I can't think of what that's called. Looks like a porcupine and a hedgehog or something like that. This hedgehog-looking person on the right looks exactly like the way that Paru draws herself in her autobiographical comic. As for me, I've completely returned to my everyday life. What happened on that day was on the news, but since my face was too bloody, they only reported me as an unknown canine. Which, you know, makes sense for Legoshi. He doesn't want to be in the spotlight. It's unclear if he'll even accept being a Beastar. Who is calling to him? Haru? I will say one thing, it felt like the Haru and Legoshi plotline wasn't as big of a focus as I thought it would be. I thought it would be kind of like a lot of things would kind of orbit around it and interfere with it, and they would have all these like chance encounters and stuff. And then like the final major arc would be about their relationship. But evidently it wasn't, because we don't have time for a final major arc about that. It is not it's not Haru, it's the sea lion buddies. Zagu-san. I really like Zengo-san. I loved all the stuff about the sea animals. Just so weird, just so fascinating. It almost reminded me of like Hoseki no Kuni, where it was just like this strange revelation that an entire other society was happening in parallel that ascribed to like none of the rules and had none of the issues. There was also a series, Centaur no Nayami, the everyday life of centaurs, which was a very, very strange series and kind of had a similar lore and world building to Beastars, where most of the time you were just like, huh? What is this about? What is the relevance of this? But they also had an entire society of sea people that was like totally disconnected from the land people. Or I shouldn't say totally disconnected, but like whenever they crossed over, it was just this huge sense of alienness. So it looks like they're taking Zengu-sen's possessions back to the sea. It's a good time to move. Seals live on ice. A lot of good iceberg properties on sale. This is the sea people language, I guess. It's just for sale. Ooh, the other thing this reminds me of is heterogeneous linguistics. In the scanlations, they're just getting to a long and very mysterious arc involving the sea people, who seem to just be fishes, and our main characters, so far, totally futile attempts to understand how they communicate and stuff. Just this kind of idea of like, if we broaden civilization to everything, and we take all of the animals and sort them into civilization as we know it, into, you know, sapient society, that the fish, that what we do with the fish is so just inherently and inevitably more alien than anything else, is like this concept that has been independently reached by so many people writing worlds with this premise, and every time I think it's like fascinating. Even though it's like roughly the same idea every time, it's still so fascinating to me. Yeah, these big balls. Once I realized that was what's happening, that's how they were transporting the stuff. Just rolling it. With like very little concern of if it breaks or not. It just is the transience of all things that the sea people embrace. Just yeeting it. They actually use the sound effect yeet. That's the only word to describe it. He just yeeted all his possessions into the ocean. Should throw two, Legoshi. Throw all my futons. So far away. Going to. This is how we move out. Stick the address on the ball and throw it into the sea. The movers will carry it to your new address. It's just, I don't know, it's so cool that even so close to the end, Paru needs to devote time to this concept, to this little idea she had, to this little slice of the world that she's built. That she focuses on these charming little details to such an extent without ever once explaining many of the other major aspects of lore. But we can get to that later. Never have Finn moving into the sea until now. It's hard to comprehend how vast it is. It'd be a pain to send out letters, something like that. So unceremonious. Just leaving already. I love you, Legoshi. I love you too, Zakwan-san. The way he's getting naked thing. It's so good. Such a charming character. And I like being reminded of this right at the end. The vast alien difference of the sea. It really speaks to, I think, the sense of continuing adventure, of continuing struggles and stuff. I never expected like a clean, happily ever after, we're done here type ending to this series. And it's already giving me that feeling. One thing that's been bothering me. I thought life on land might not suit you. Since the animals are used to being naked, I wonder if it's a pain having to wear clothes on land. I could have listened to you more. I could have helped you. The land is a wonderful place. Everyone says so. Huh. So the land has a reputation in the sea of being cool and crazy and stuff. Whoa. Okay. So he lived. And his name is Yashua. Sounds correct, or something close to that. And this is the Land Sea Creatures Summit meeting. Major slice of the lore coming back here in its second appearance ever. The ancient and possibly immortal whale that said something, currently unknown, to end the war between carnivores and herbivores centuries ago. The hidden truth of the Beastars world. Which I always thought was funny because it's like the explanation they give people in like mainstream school and stuff is that they just kind of like came to peace naturally. That war escalated, it hit this terrible peak where they were killing each other, and then through no real miracle or gigantic change of heart or whatever, they just kind of amicably decided to stop fighting. When instead, it feels like the real story is much more mystical and fake, and sounds like the sort of thing they would come up with to hide a more nuanced and complicated truth. Which is, of course, that this immortal whale came and told them to stop, and they listened for some reason. So they're giving him a fish sausage, which of course is delicious. I do love fish sausage. And I guess now the carnivores are just going to be a pescatarian. They're not going to eat the flesh of mammals and other land animals, but instead just eat fish, eggs, milk, etc. for protein. Maybe? Here's a question. Did they ever invent tofu in the world of Beastars? I genuinely don't know. Fish sausage. Ya. That's his name. Yashua? What was I thinking? Items provided support. Is this food? I got my neck torn out. Better or worse? Melon is in prison. Looks like maybe an insane asylum. Something like that. But a pile of letters, including at least a few with little heart stickers on them, is piling up in front of him. It would be difficult dealing with a true professional. Huh. What does he mean by this exactly? What is a true professional in this case? Black Mountain meat is torn down. The government says they're looking to get rid of anything that says meat. Placement for that place. Yeah, it's like, okay. What did it do really? Because the conditions that created the Black Alley Meat Market in the first place haven't really changed. That was the reason it was the back alley, is that they were doing this surreptitiously. They were doing this in secret and behind people's backs. So if the rule is now don't do it, the rule was always don't do it. Is there really going to be such a great change of heart that this desire is snuffed out in each and every carnivore? I don't know. I really don't know. I don't think it gives you a solid answer either way. I don't know, man. Melon Sama the Professional. Now on, you land animals can eat fish meat. From our view of life and death, we're born from a massive amount of eggs. We live in a beautiful world where life and death don't matter. Yeah, this was said before. And I like that we saw the move out of our seal friend to kind of like refresh these ideas in our mind. That he talks again about life and death are totally transient in the sea. The idea of us dying, whatever, it's no big deal. When Legoshi is drowning, all the sea animals just kind of remark with idle curiousness. Waiting all this time to tell me about this. We are willing to expect fish meat to the land. This is so weird. This is like... Dude, this series is so weird. Because, like, what? Is this, like, a big happy ending? Is this, like... Society's ills will be fixed in a major way because now they can eat fish meat? Is that the idea that, like, this was the miracle solution they'd been waiting for? Because it doesn't feel like that. It feels a whole lot weirder than that. Because you know that the fish people are, like, sapients and stuff. And maybe their culture doesn't care about life and death. But it's, like, hard to just accept that and be like, well, the person I'm eating didn't care that they died. And then, yeah, it's like... I mean, the seal isn't a fish. It's a mammal that lives in the water. Excuse me. But is that fair game? Is it just fish they're eating? Does that make a difference? Because he has the same attitudes about life and death. But then we see here this beautiful, touching relationship. It's like he's... Are they is this like... Oh, it's like basically he's like heading off to his death? Because they're not going to see each other? So it's like symbolic in that sense, but then it's also symbolic in the sense that like the sea people are sacrificing themselves to become the meat for the land carnivores. This is weird as hell, man. This is a beautiful, beautiful page, though. They say their goodbyes. Appreciate your kindness, but trade is a source of conflict. By a chance, we should offend the sea. It'll be the end of the land. So, yeah, basically staying straight up, the land would get owned by the sea. Which I think makes sense, because... Does this take place on Earth? If it takes place on anything that's like Earth, the sea vastly, vastly out-areas the land and outpopulates the land. And there's all sorts of gigantic creatures in the sea, like this friggin' whale, that I'm sure how, through whatever means, could just economically, socially, emotionally, violently annihilate the denizens of the land. Sausage is way too hard to open. Your land creatures have matured quite a bit. Looking forward to seeing what the future holds for you. It's like the sea people, because they're so much more ancient, have this like enlightened perspective about the land people. That, you know, eventually the land people will come to view life and death as the sea people do, and not get so hung up on all this societal detail and stuff. So weird, dude. And just this feeling of like this kind of like triumphant morality, this triumph of principles, where Yaya rejects the fish sausage. It's like emotionally I can read it, but it's so hard to parse on an actual like messaging level because just this world is like so alien. I think the fact that they've been able to build up this society that functions almost more like a parable, you know, like this mythological story of the way that the land creatures relate to the creatures and the ancient grudges between the herbivores and the carnivores and their strenuous relationship today. It's like watching the unfolding of like a founding myth or whatever. This series is so crazy, dude. I love it so much. This is all praise, by the way. I might say things like, what the hell is going on? I don't understand what this means. I have no freaking clue what Paru-sensei is trying to say. But these are all positive statements. These are all things that make this series so special to me. Because I'm reading it and I'm just like... It's like from another planet. Thread tape and peel the vinyl off the opening. I really learned a lot from our meetings. How to open the sausage. So here we see parallels. It's almost like they're suggesting, you know, as Legoshi is this new generation of enlightenment and tolerance and community among the land creatures. So true, Zagwan is like the whale, offering this enlightened perspective of the sea and being such a comfort and a guide to Legoshi, and now will motivate this next generation of sea to land unity. These two parallel panels are really nice. Paru's general sense of like page layout and paneling and like the way she uses negative space and like minimal emptiness and character focus and just everything that I like in manga, she is so friggin' good at. It's such a joy to read. Even when it's so brutally uncomfortable or sad. Goodbye for real, Zagwan-san. Take care. Samir, you're getting closer. I changed my mind! I'm just too sad. The sea won't be happy if I live there being all sad. Just like that, he changes his mind. This reminds me of the ending of 30 Rock, which I won't spoil if somebody hasn't seen it, but one of the greatest final episodes of a sitcom ever has a similar instantaneously changing my mind. But all your furniture is still in the sea. I need them anyways. Just sent his furniture adrift and came back. Okay, interesting. So maybe this suggests, like, in the long term, an even greater unity between the land creatures and sea creatures, like true cross-inhabitation. I just thought of another one in BoJack Horseman. All of these animals as peoples show always have the craziest stuff with the sea people. I don't know if people have watched BoJack Horseman, but there's the episode where he goes to the underwater city, and it's actually really delightful. It's one of my favorite episodes of that show. So different than any other episode of that show in that it's not brutally depressing. Anyways, yeah, many such cases. I should write a little TV tropes article about this. I threw my clothes into the sea. He does have a wiener, for sure, because there's so much discussion of the different animals' wieners in the series. And every time you see Zagwan from the front, his wiener area is censored. So it's not like SpongeBob. It's not like, you know, little baby Goku running around. He's got his little seal hog out there for everyone to see. I'm sorry, what am I talking about? Okay, there's Lewis. Meeting up with Haru. Ooh. Not Haru. Juno. The heck? Sorry, I haven't read this in a bit. All the characters' names are getting jumbled up in my head. Okay, I think I've got 3 more after this. I'm just gonna keep reading. We'll discuss more generally at the end. I like this little rabbit hustling through at the bottom of the last chapter. All right. Yeah. Join. I'll probably upload these on like subsequent dates. So check back in tomorrow for more. The end of Beastars. Bye bye.